Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're getting into something that pops up again and again. Monosodium glutamate, MSG. There's actually a new case report out kind of linking it to atrial fibrillation, or AFib. So our plan today, let's unpack this new info, see how it stacks up against, the established science, and maybe sharpen our critical thinking a bit.
Yeah, it's definitely a topic with a lot of history, and it's important to look past just the headlines, especially with something like a case report, see the whole picture.
Exactly. So this specific case report, it's from the Annals of Internal Medicine, just published August 19th, 2025. It's about a 78-year-old woman. She had several health issues already, severe obesity, hypertension, chronic pain, and then got diagnosed with new onset AFib. Now, the medication wasn't really working. But here's the interesting part. They found out she was using these spice mixes packed with MSG, like a lot, maybe 6 grams a day for months.
Wow, that's quite a bit.
Yeah. And once she stopped using them, her AFib episodes started decreasing. After about 3 months, her heart rhythm was back to normal.
And the authors of the paper, they really honed in on the MSG, didn't they? They suspected it was the true cause, which is pretty bold considering her age and hypertension are, classic risk factors for AFib already. But the timing, stopping MSG and the AFib resolving, that's what they focused on.
Right. It makes you pause. And this wasn't their first time looking into this. They had another case report back in 2023. That one was about a 63-year-old doctor, actually. He kept getting AFib often after eating Chinese food, he noted. His episodes stopped after he started avoiding MSG, though he also had some cardiac procedures.
So they're building a bit of a narrative around potential sensitivity. Their conclusion in that paper was basically, if you think you're sensitive, maybe avoid it.
Okay, so we have these two specific, quite compelling stories. But how did these fit into the bigger scientific consensus? What did the regulatory bodies say?
That's the crucial next step. If we look at the U.S. FDA, their position, updated back in 2018, is that MSG is generally recognized as safe, GRAL-S status. They point out it's naturally in foods we eat all the time, tomatoes, cheese, you name it, and the way it's made for adding to food. It's fermentation, kind of like making yogurt or wine.
And this GRS status isn't just like a random decision. The FDA actually commissioned a big review in the 90s, right? By FALab.
Exactly, the Federation of American Societies for Experimental Biology.
And FALab concluded MSG is safe. They did find something interesting, though. A very small group of people might be sensitive. They could get mild short-term symptoms, headache, maybe some flushing, tingling, palpitations, even drowsiness. But, and this is key, only if they consume 3 grams or more of MSG without food.
Right, like taking it straight on an empty stomach, which is very different from how people normally consume it.
Yeah, because typically added MSG in a serving of food is less than half a gram. So much, much less than that 3-gram threshold FAB mentioned.
And other agencies agree. The Taiwan FDA, looking at this in 2022, basically said normal consumption is harmless, no link to chronic diseases. They do acknowledge that MSG symptom complex, those temporary reactions like headache, maybe a rapid heartbeat, nausea, but again, only for a very small minority. Their advice, if that's you, probably best to avoid it.
Okay, so the official line seems pretty clear. But here's something that really surprised me. Trying to avoid MSG completely. Almost impossible.
Yeah, that's the kicker.
Apparently, we naturally eat around 20 grams of glutamate, the G, in MSG every single day, just from regular foods. It's in proteins, vegetables. It's everywhere.
Exactly. So this is where that critical thinking comes back in, You have these striking individual case reports like the woman with AFib. They raise questions, absolutely. But then you have the huge body of research, the population studies, the regulatory reviews, which form the basis for guidelines like the FDA's GRS status. It's about weighing different types of evidence.
One person's experience versus data from thousands or even millions.
Precisely. While we can't dismiss individual experiences, the overwhelming scientific consensus, built over decades, points to MSG being generally safe at the levels most people consume it.
So wrapping this up, these individual cases, they're compelling, they make you think, but they stand against a pretty solid wall of scientific and regulatory agreement that for most people, MSG is okay in normal amounts.
Right. And Professor Lin's advice really aligns with this. You can't avoid the natural stuff, it's just part of food. But you can be mindful of added MSG. Maybe cutting back on heavily processed foods or being aware when dining out could help limit intake if you're concerned about potentially high amounts or if you suspect you might be one of those rare sensitive individuals.
It really highlights the difference between an anecdote, even a medically documented one, and broad scientific findings. So here's something to think about. How does understanding that difference, the case report, versus the consensus, maybe change how you look at other health headlines or claims you come across. Definitely food for thought. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive today.